People inherently need some sort of deeper meaning or higher purpose to whatever it is they're doing within their life. And yet, many of us lack this. We instead follow the safe and predictable paths of our parents and other people around us because that's secure, that is known. Yet the problem with this is that oftentimes it's difficult to find meaning when you're blindly following the same path other people before you had followed. The safe and predictable path is known. And if you know exactly what you're going to do at this milestone and what you'll do at that milestone and what this action will lead to down the line, then within your life, you'll struggle to find that deeper meaning. What people actually need is chaos and uncertainty. When meshed together, these things create fulfillment because you're forced to figure things out, you're forced to problem solve, you're forced to do things beyond your comfort zone. And when you're living life like this, then things are exciting. Joseph Campbell wrote all about this within his book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. The point of that book was to show exactly what the hero's journey is, and what he did within that book was he highlighted that this sort of call to adventure, it happens within all of our lives. And it's our job to listen to that call and actually do that big and bold thing that's beyond your comfort zone. He described it as a psychological necessity. And if you happen to refuse this call to adventure, whatever it is within your life, then you'll ultimately experience this form of stagnation and decay within your life. Now, when I say call to adventure, I'm not saying that you're going to book a flight across the world and backpack throughout an entire country or anything crazy like that. You can do that, and I think that'd be an amazing trip, but that isn't necessarily a call to adventure. What Joseph Campbell was getting at was that you need to step up to the plate and embrace whatever challenge life is throwing at you, rather than cowering away. And when you can embrace that challenge, then you can find meaning within whatever it is you're doing. That is accepting the call. That is stepping up to the plate. That is saying, hey, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to be here. I'm going to figure things out, however they may be. Viktor Frankl is a perfect example of this. He was a psychiatrist who was essentially taken by the Nazis and thrown into their concentration camps. And he was there for a long time. Now, I don't know, I don't want to get too morbid here, but many people died in those concentration camps. Many people starved. Many people were shot and killed. And it was a very terrible situation. But he was able to make it through his time there because every single day, within his book, he talked about this. Every single day he found some sort of meaning. He stepped up to the plate. He said, okay, well, this is the adventure I'm on. I need to find purpose and meaning within the situation I'm in. He realized that having a higher purpose or this deeper meaning behind your existence is a fundamental human necessity. Without that, then we simply don't have the drive to go on living. Now, on the lighter side of things, because I know that's a pretty heavy topic, this also reminds me of my favorite fiction novel, The Hobbit. Now, in The Hobbit, it follows the main character who's a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo Baggins is this middle-aged hobbit who just eats food all day, smokes his pipe, hangs out in the garden, and he's very relaxed and content with his life. Now, one day, Gandalf the Grey, the big wizard within those movies, he pulls up to Bilbo's house and he says, hey, Bilbo, I have this task for you. This is essentially the adventure of a lifetime. You need to go on this journey. If you don't go on this journey, you're going to regret it. He doesn't say those exact words, but basically that's what he's getting at. And Bilbo's like, nah, my life is easy. My life is comfortable. I eat and I smoke and I write and I listen to music and all these things that hobbits do. But eventually he says, all right, well, I'll go on this adventure. He goes with Gandalf and he does in fact go on the adventure of his lifetime because he answered the call. This was his personal story. If Bilbo didn't go on that adventure, then he would have lived out the rest of his days in hedonism, just eating and smoking and drinking and listening to music and doing nothing truly meaningful within his life. And ultimately, the events from The Hobbit led to The Lord of the Rings, which if you haven't watched those movies, you gotta watch those movies. They're amazing. But anyways, I tell you all this because without a personal story, without this call to adventure or this deeper meaning within your life, whatever it is, you're gonna feel empty. You'll feel stagnant. You'll feel like life is passing you by so quickly and you're never really embracing the moment for what it is, which is something I'll talk about in another video. You'll go on living your days and your months and your years just doing the same thing over and over following somebody else's script, rather than actually carving out your own adventure, rather than answering the call to whatever that story is, rather than finding some sort of inner narrative and that deeper meaning within you to pursue the things you actually want to pursue. But when you have your own personal story, when you can create your own values and create your own goals that you want to strive towards, then life itself becomes a lot more purposeful. You have that inner meaning, that deeper purpose behind the things you're doing. And from there, your thinking becomes more clear, you're more precise with everything you do, your actions are deliberate, and life itself just becomes so much better. And look, you don't need to travel the world and you don't need to gamble away your life savings. It doesn't need to be extreme like that. But you're gonna find that higher purpose. You're gonna get clear on what that personal story is within you. Only then can you think clearly, act in accordance with what your true values are, and move towards something that's bigger than you, all right? That is where you'll find your deeper meaning within your life. So, hope this makes sense. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.